I'm going to reveal something that I've been keeping from you. It's super cringe. It's a big reveal. There is something that I haven't told you yet from when I was in AA. Hello and welcome to the Sobriety Bestie podcast. I'm super stoked you're here today for a very special day. For context, I was in AA for 10 years and I left 5 years ago, and I've been deconstructing here on this channel. And there's one thing I wasn't sure when I was going to mention it, but today feels like a great day. It's my birthday. This is my birthday week. And 6 years ago on my birthday, I published a book, and that's what this is about. So 2 things today is, number 1, I want to tell you this, something that is super embarrassing. I also want to invite you really to leave anything that you have cringe about AA in the comments, anything that when you look back on it now with hindsight and with some deconstructing under your belt that you're like, I can't believe I thought that, did that, said that, or whatever, all the things. Y'all know I was a true believer in AA for that decade I was there. I cried on Bill Wilson's grave, thanking him for channeling the big book, thanking him for my life. I believed at that time AA saved my life. Now I realize that was baloney. AA told me that they saved my life, and now I realize that only we can save our own lives. The power is within us. We are powerful as fuck. And anybody who tells us that we are powerless or that we owe them their life is trying to control us. This is the book that I published 6 years ago. I actually wrote this book in 2017, and then I published it in 2019. It's called The Heartgasm Revolution, a mind-blowing guide to self-love. And I'm going to read the dedication to you, which is the super cringe part. Oh man, can you see that? Can you see what it says? To Bill Wilson. It's dedication to Bill Wilson and Eckhart Tolle, the 2 authors of the 2 books that transformed my life the most. Your words, your wisdom, and your books gave me the tools to climb out of a living hell, a time filled with addiction and all-encompassing anxiety, a time when I would frequently wake up thinking, fuck, I'm still alive. Whew, God, that was so brutal. Your teachings guided me back to life, and I am eternally grateful. Yeah, at the end of my drinking, that is really what happened so much. I would wake up and be thinking, fuck, I'm still alive. I was dying at the end of my drinking. Alcohol and anxiety or alcohol and fear were killing me. I had a moment where I looked in the mirror and it looked as if my spirit was about to leave my body. Like it looked like a hollow or empty shell, and it scared me. And right after that is when I went to rehab. At that time, yeah, I would say, fuck, I'm still alive when I would wake up, because I would wake up in anxiety attacks or panic attacks, and it would be like my entire system was like panicked. And so at that time, it was like there was only 2 things that I knew that would get rid of that overwhelming panic, which was either sleeping or drinking. Yeah, that's what the mornings were like at the very end for me. It was brutal. It was a hard time. Where I feel cringe about this now, which I'm sure you can guess, is that dedicating my book to Bill is pretty cringe. I was a true believer. I believed all the program, and I want to say something now, like, also watch to the end because I have a gift for you. I have something I want to give you for this birthday week. Yeah, it's bestie birthday week. I'd like to say that I am very much still on the deconstructing journey. I deconstructed AA the first year that I left, like 2020. I spent that whole year like deep in therapy and doing lots of work to unpack AA and like leave mentally and emotionally. I physically left April 6, 2020. But then to deconstruct, then I kind of forgot about AA for years, and I just moved on with my life, and it just came up here and there, but I didn't think that I had any more deprogramming to do. And I feel like that's a lot of us, especially because I was in the middle of the boat, right? I was a true believer who really believed most of the big book to be gospel truth, whatever. And then at 5 years sober from AA, so 5 years after I left AA, I finally felt like I gave myself permission to talk about it on the internet. And I've been talking about it pretty much every day ever since the past 4 months. As I've been talking about it on the internet and making all these videos and deconstructing with you in real time, I've come to realize that more has been revealed. And I realize that I have a lot of more deconstructing to do, because the more that I look, the more that I realize how much has been loaded into my brain and controlled by AA ideology. So Yeah, I'm clear that AA's history is baloney and it was originally the Oxford group, and that AA is actually a religious conversion program. If you haven't seen any of my videos about the truth about where the 12 steps come from, I'll pop that up here. So that was a revelation. Realizing that AA is a religious cult was a revelation. I mean, I knew that when I first got there. I knew that before I ever went, but AA told me they're spiritual, not religious. AA also told me that they're not a cult, but that they need brainwashing and I need brainwashing, and the brainwashing is good and wash the brain, right? It really was only a couple of months ago when I really dug in that I came to the revelation again, because I already knew they were a religious cult, but then they told me that they weren't. That was part of the indoctrination. Now I'm clear they're a religious cult. I'll put that playlist up here if you want to look at that video. So those were very helpful in my deconstructing journey. And I'm very aware that I have a lot more deconstructing to do. So I'm interested in learning about psychology, neuroscience, AA history, brainwashing, all the things, right? Cult psychology. And so I just watched over the past couple of days, like I knew about Charles Manson and vaguely what went on, but I never actually was like studied the case or looked into it or like pursued it. Just heard about it like in common culture. But so I watched a documentary over the weekend. It was on MGM on YouTube. I did like a free trial and watched their 6-part series. And then I watched a movie last night on Netflix that's called Chaos, the Manson Murders. And now I'm listening to, what is it? I'm like halfway through. He was on the guy that was in the Chaos thing. What is his name? Tom O'Neill. He wrote a book called Chaos. Anyways, I'm like studying Charles Manson and what happened there because, you know, brainwashing and mind control. And it's really fascinating to me. So those women, the Manson girls, well, I guess they were girls, they were underage. So the Manson girls, they basically became assassins who didn't feel anything or have any remorse and went out and killed. It's really interesting for me to learn about it and understand it to help me unpack it more for myself. And that might be why you're with me on this journey, because you're watching deconstructing content because you want to get free just like I want to get free. And so the person who wrote the dedication to this book, that dedicated their book to Bill, like I liken that now to like the Manson girls or anybody who is mind controlled. When you believe the ideology that you're told is true, otherwise you're going to die, or otherwise there's Armageddon, or the world's going to end, or you're going to go to hell, or whatever, you take on this thing that I've heard called a cult personality. So it's not like the cult strips away your identity. So AA is like, no, you got to identify with us and you got to obey the ideology. And if you can parrot the ideology and obey the ideology, then you'll get love, then you'll be in the middle of the boat, you'll get safety, you'll get security, you'll get community. And if you don't, if you disobey the ideology, then you're going to be shunned or gaslit or kicked out or distanced from or told things like keep coming back or you're in denial or things like that. It all really fascinates me. As I wrote this in 2017, published it in 2019, 2020 is when I left AA. Even thought about, should I change the dedication, like go back and retroactively and like take that out? It's so cringe. And I'm like, no, it's who I was at the time. I did feel like Bill was my savior. So it's really embarrassing. And despite that being cringe and embarrassing, I still am proud of the book. I think that it does have a lot to offer. I reread it today. I like skimmed over it with my deconstructing mind. I'm like, what in here is going to be like anything that's super AA-like that's going to make me barf? And there really isn't anything that's super AA-like. There's like 2 or 3 pages that talk about God or a higher power. And I'm like, I wouldn't write that today. I'm obviously a very different person than I was in 2017 to 2019. I've evolved just like you. I've evolved quite a bit since then. But there's a lot of great practices in here. And I think that this is the book that I wrote after I went through a major dark night of the soul at 5 years sober. So there's a lot of things that can happen around 5 years sober for a lot of us. There's clearly no rules to healing. Dogma is not happening here, but I heard a lot of stuff in AA. Let me know if you heard a 5-year warning in AA in the comments. So I heard things like, when you're 5, there's a big boom at 5. That's the sound of your head popping out of your ass. Or don't kill yourself in the first 5 years because you'll be killing the wrong person, meaning that you're not even going to know who you are yet, right? Or 5 is when you get your feelings back. So I heard all of these ominous warnings about something's going to happen at 5. And then when I was 4.5 years sober is when I moved to Bali. And then I guess it was like when I was 5 years sober, I went on this 6-month adventure. Like I went to do all these different meditation centers. So I went to Thailand for a while, did Qigong and Tai Chi and Vipassana and Theravada Buddhism, and then I went to Nepal and I stayed at a meditation center there and did Tibetan Buddhism. And then I went to India for 2 months and stayed at a meditation center there and did all sorts of dynamic meditations. And at the last place that I went to, I did a week-long intensive inner child therapy, like live-in space. So we literally all slept in the same room together, and it was like super high immersive. Like literally we were like basically in a padded basement and like beat the fuck out of the wall. It was very cathartic. There was a primal scream. My inner child was screaming about what happened and what didn't happen. Regardless to say, I emerged a different person. I emerged cracked open, and so it was like my I guess my original pain or my childhood trauma was like up and available to be healed. Alcohol numbs out our feelings, like it literally damages our interoception, our ability to feel what's happening inside of our body. And then that regrows in sobriety. So it's like we thaw out, is like the metaphor. We start to have more feelings. And that was certainly my experience. Let me know if this is your experience in the comments. Of course, everyone's different. But I remember like when I was 6 months sober, I was like, oh, is this joy? Like, is this what I'm feeling right now? Joy? I haven't had joy in so long. I mean, I enjoy drinking a lot of the time, but so I felt like my getting sober was like reintroducing myself to my feelings. Like, oh, here's loneliness, here's boredom, here's anger, here's like my feelings were all popping up. Here's guilt, here's shame, here's I feel unlovable. It kind of culminated around 5 years sober for me, where I went through a major healing, and it felt like I was healing my heart. Like I was learning to love myself again and come back into self-love. I had this really profound feeling inside my heart when I first went to Bali, and it actually inspired my move to Bali. So I went to Bali in March, April of 2014 for the first time. And by June, I lived there full time. It like was pretty intense. And so, yeah, I had this experience in my heart where at first I was feeling like rapture, and then I was feeling grief, like in a healing context. And I came to name that experience because it kept happening. I named it Heartgasm. Like the energy of my heart was awakening up. Like I had shut my heart down through trauma and through drinking and through life's adversities. And then in sobriety, it was already opening back up. And then I did a lot of healing work, and it felt like my heart was opening back up to life. And so I called that like re-energizing, that coming alive feeling inside my body, coming back to life, like the lights turning on in sobriety. But this time, like in my heart, I called that like a heartgasm. So that's the premise of the book, the Heartgasm Revolution. It's to like reignite that feeling in your heart of aliveness, love, joy, lightness. I'll even read you the definition because when you make up a word, you can define it, right? Yeah. Heartgasm, an energetic explosion of the heart where love, passion, and aliveness flood the body along with strong feelings of warmth, connectedness, and bliss, usually accompanied by tears of joy and a smile. There's lots of practices in here and exercises in here. And I wanted to give it to you if you're interested. If you want to have some tools and techniques that work for anxiety or emotional overwhelm or self-love, especially if you're going through the 5-year sober feels or you're in early sobriety at all. For me, really, getting sober was very what was hard about it was the emotions. I was all over the place. I hadn't been diagnosed autistic or ADHD yet, but I knew that I was always dysregulated, hypersensitive, and experiencing the world a bit different than other people, it seemed, at least in my perception. And that alcohol helped numb that and quiet that down. It had helped like my social differences. It helped me feel more comfortable in my skin. So for me, getting sober and staying sober was about learning how to feel comfortable in my skin. Not only did I grow along those lines through working with different teachers in Southeast Asia or like wherever, and my own journey and going to meditation retreats, but then I started a coaching business in 2012, and I started teaching anxiety, like an anxiety course in my living room. I'd teach it every Tuesday night for like a month, and then I'd get new students, and so I'd teach them my class, and then I taught that class at a sober living house. Then I turned it into an online course, and really what that was about was teaching mindfulness, meditation, how to calm stress and anxiety and emotions, because that was like my biggest struggle. So that's been my work really since 2012, is helping people break through anxiety is like the predominant thing that I've worked on, or helping people with any sort of emotions and sobriety, because that's been my path. That's what I struggled with the most. So I have a lot of experience helping students and clients through those different journeys, especially with anxiety. So if you want to learn some of the techniques that I've used or hear techniques that I've learned from other teachers that have been really meaningful and helpful, it's all in this book. And it's available for you if you're vibing it. It's birthday week, birthday bestie week. What's up? So it's my birthday this week, and it's also the book's 6-year birthday this week. So if you want to get your Heartgasm on, it's all available for you. So I'll put a link below. If you want the PDF version, you can get that for free. There's book bonuses as well that come along with that. If you want to, I'll also put another link if you want the actual paperback edition. I'll give you a link to get that on Amazon. That one does have a fee through Amazon. The benefit of getting it in paperback, if that's how you vibe best, if you're interested at all, is that some of my students or some of my readers have said they've really enjoyed thinking about something using like an oracle, like a tarot card or whatever. And this doesn't have to be like a spiritual thing. It's also just very practical. You think of a question in your mind. This is really annoying me. How can I get through this? Or this has been on my mind, or blah, 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 blah. Then you just open it, whatever page, and then you just read something for you. So my students have told me they've loved to use the book that way because it's not written in a way where you need to read it front to back. The first part is like a story and a background and unpacks a little bit of it. And then there's just a bunch of practices and exercises throughout it. So it really can be done in whichever way one feels intuitively to go through it. So if you wanted to reignite the fire in your heart, if you wanted to come alive and do some, I don't know, some fun heart healing work, that's what this book is all about. So I wanted to celebrate today with you. Have a fun little episode here. Yeah. And also I wanted to confess because like, I don't know, maybe you also have something that's a little cringe, and it's okay. Who we were then is not who we are now. And the more that we can deconstruct any ideology, anybody else's, the more we get to be ourselves and be true to ourselves. I always think about, and this is like the core of like everything that mattered to me when I started coaching people, when I started making courses, when I started trying to help people with anxiety and stuff. It was like, really, this was the core for me in my own life because I had so much anxiety when I got sober. It was ridiculous. That what I say in here about waking up thinking, fuck, I'm still alive, that lasted in sobriety. It wasn't as bad because I didn't feel trapped anymore because I was sober now, but I was still waking up with anxiety attacks all the time. So I needed to like learn a lot of tools and techniques. And I know this is a weird analogy, but just like I don't think that those Manson girls would have been killers if it wasn't for Manson. They were not thinking in their own right mind. They were possessed by his ideology. He was directing them through an ideology. They believed something about the world, helter skelter, race wars, all the things, right? So they were not in their own minds. And so as cringe as it is that I dedicated a book to Bill and I'm basically thanking him for my life in my book, on the grave, all the things, I was mind controlled. I was in the cult pseudo personality. I'm responsible for my actions, but it's not who I am. And so the guiding principle is a quote from a book. There's, I think it's called The 5 Regrets of the Dying. And in that book, there's a nurse who's working with people who are dying, obviously. And the quote that always stood out to me was, the number one regret of the dying is, I wish I had had the courage to live a life true to myself and not the one others expected of me. And so that was always like so deep in me. Like, I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself. And so I committed to courage. Like, that was like how I got free in early sobriety. I was like, I have to be willing to be as scared as long as I am to climb out of this hole of fear and to recreate my life. I was afraid of driving on freeways. I was afraid of dogs, afraid of public speaking. I was afraid of getting up in the morning without drinking. Like, are you kidding me? I was so, like, I had so far to go to change my life. So no, Bill did not save my life. I did so many things because I was so like dysregulated and I was coming off benzos and like, it was just like a hard time. But I committed to courage and I kept taking action forward, and when it was aligned with my heart and my spirit. So if I have a goal or a dream and I'm scared, I'm going to do it anyways. And I'm just willing to be scared and uncomfortable as I expand my comfort zone and rebuild my life. And I just think it's so important to commit to courage and to, even if it's scary and even if it's a small step, to keep stepping forward. So that's been like the core like of me. I feel like that's how I recreated my life in sobriety, was by just committing to courage. Like, no matter what, I'm gonna do the things that scare me because I felt like I was like afraid of everything. Thank you for celebrating my birthday with me and the book birthday with me. And if you want a Heartgasm, I'll drop the links below. Let me know what you think if you vibe it. I know that somebody wrote in one of my comments once that they bought the book, they loved it, and they got like 7 or 8 copies for their family members, for their ex-wife, for their kids. And so yeah, it's a vibe. It's definitely a vibe. So if you want a mind-blowing guide to self-love, be my guest. Happy birthday. Birthday bestie. Take care, and I can't wait to see you in the comments. Yeah. Oh, we don't give a fuck because that's my birthday. Bye.